Hello and welcome to this demonstration on how to install Cisco Unified Communications Manager 8.6 for home or lab use. For this demonstration I'm going to use the VMware Workstation. However, you can also apply these to ESXi or ESX Server, whichever you wish to use. This desktop or this workstation that is run on the desktop is you pay a license fee to run it, but the ESXi and server are free. For my home environment, I typically use the ESXi on a dedicated machine. But before we begin, usually what would happen is you take the bootable install. Let's say I have version 8.0 or 8.01. I go ahead and install that. Well, Cisco comes out with these images that you can download to upgrade it, which is great. But for example, in my home environment, I started with 8.01 and then I went to 8.5. Then I had to apply another patch to be able to upgrade it to 8.6, and it takes quite a while. So sometimes if you just want to get right in and build a VM, to save some time, what I do is I take the latest ISO file and I do a couple of modifications to it, so that way I can just boot right into it and get going. So for starters, here we have the VMware Workstation, and we have the latest ISO image that I downloaded from Cisco. And one of the things that I will do first is, if you've ever installed it, sometimes it will give you just an option to install Communications Manager. Well, if you don't have the right settings or hardware requirements, it won't let you install Unity connections or Communications Manager Business Edition. So in a lab environment, even if you don't meet the hardware requirements, you can still install it and it will work. Like, I use it for my home voicemail, and it works just fine. So to bypass the hardware checks, what I do is, on this original ISO file, I'll go into the Cisco folder and then the install directory here, and then this conf directory, and I take this call manager product file, and I'll drag it over here, and I'll go ahead and open it and edit this. I'm just using Word here, and if I scroll down to this first set here, this is the requirements on Unified Communications Manager, and I'll go down, and where it says VMware and not, I'm going to change this to VAL, and then I will just make all the requirements stars. And if you scroll down some more, the next one should be Unity connection, and there it is, Cisco Unity connection. And again, we'll go down until we find this VMware. This one already has stars, so we'll just change the not to val. And last but not least, we have the Business Edition 5000, and I will go ahead and erase that, put in a star and a star, and that should be all of them. And this 3000 is already in there, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now that that's saved, I'll close this, and I will copy this back in and go ahead and overwrite the file. So that takes care of that piece. Now the other thing is to make this bootable, and what I did is I extracted I had ordered version 7.02 on eBay, I think back in 2009, and I extracted the boot BIF file using this Ultra ISO program. So even though it's on an older version, I can actually just insert this back into this image. So what I'll do is, under bootable, I'm going to click generate boot info table, and now that that's checked, I will choose load boot file, and I'll select the boot BIF file, hit open, and now you can see the image type is bootable. And at this point I can do a save or save as. In this case I'm just going to hit save. It's going to rename this file, and it creates a new file. So we'll let this save here. Okay, that's saved. So now we can close this out, and we actually no longer need any of these files. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those. And this is the new ISO I'll use for my home or lab environment until there's another version. The licensing is different on version 9, so I haven't really bothered with that. This gives you, by default, 150 DLU licenses, and optionally you can download additional licenses, demo licenses that don't expire for free from Cisco's website, which I'll show you how to do. That gives you 500 DLUs, and for a home environment or lab environment, that's way more than enough, in my opinion. So so now we'll go ahead and create our virtual machine, and so I will say new virtual machine, custom. We'll go ahead and use workstation 9. I'll install operating system later, Linux, Red Hat 5, and we'll call this CUCM, and I'm going to move these. I got a small solid state drive, so I'm going to move this to the H drive under virtual machines. Sure. Number of processors, you only need 1, but I'll say 2 just for fun. And 4 gigs of RAM should be good. Excuse me. And I will go ahead and choose the bridge networking, and that looks good. We'll create a new virtual disk, SCSI. You want to have it 80 gigs, and I'll store as a single file. Hit next, and there's the file name. And now we'll go ahead and customize the hardware, and we don't need the floppy, so I'll remove that. And for the CD, we are going to choose the ISO image file, make sure it says connected at power on, and we're going to select this this file on the desktop that we just created, and we will hit close and finish. So now that the VM's created and we made the disk bootable, we can go ahead and power it on. And we will wait for this boot up process. When it goes through the hardware detection and it detects that it's VMware, based on those settings, it's going to go ahead and let us install all 3, or at least give us the option to install all 3 applications or appliances. Even though we're just going to install the call manager, you'll see that this has 4 gigs of RAM, but initially for Unity connection it said you needed 6, but it will still give us the option to install here. So that's just why I think doing it this way makes it a lot easier in a lab environment. So, but let's give it a minute here to finish booting up. Okay, and so now we got the product deployment selection, and as you can see, you have all 3 options. But in this case, we'll go ahead and use the Unified Communications Manager. Let me click in the box here, and we'll hit OK. And we will choose yes. And this install, if you've installed other versions or any other appliance, it's pretty much identical on every single one, so it gets pretty you get to be able to go through this in your sleep essentially. So we'll hit proceed to the wizard. We're not going to apply a patch, go with the basic install. We are in mountain time, so I'll choose Denver, and we'll hit continue. We're not going to change the MTU size. We will not use DHCP, so we'll set a host name, an IP address. We'll just give 44. How about that? And we'll hit OK. and we will not use DNS. And this is for the CLI, so create a username for that and hit OK. And then we can just make whatever we want. This is for the certificates, and hit OK. You can, just make this whatever you want. Is this the first node, or is it the publisher essentially? And we'll say yes. Put in a NTP server. There's just one on my home network here. And the security confirmation is when you install a subscriber, you'll say, and it asks you if this is the first node, you'll say no, and then you have to put in a password, and that's what this is. So whatever password you make here, you put in the other one, in the subscriber, I should say. And for this, we're just going to say no. And this is for the web administration, or the GUI, so we'll say, I'll make it the same as what I used on the CLI. And we'll hit OK. And OK again. So now that is pretty much it. This will go through an install process, and depending on your hardware, it can take anywhere from 45 minutes to several hours. So I will let this go ahead and run through the install, and when it's complete we should be at a command prompt. So I will go ahead and pause the video in just a moment and unpause once the installation is finished. So I will be back shortly. Alright, so the installation just completed, and now sometimes it does take a little while to get all the web services booted up, so I'm going to go ahead and log in here. Just make sure we're up and running. I guess it would help if I typed the correct password. Third's the charm. Alright, so we have our interface here, and if we do a show status, right here where you see the license MAC, this is what you're going to use if you want to increase your DOU licenses. So let's pull up a web browser here, and it's possible we still have to wait a few minutes. Let's put in the IP and see if this will come up. Sometimes you can get the web page to pull up, or then when you go to click on the link, it might say that 404 can't be found, and that's just because those back-end services aren't running yet, and you just have to kind of wait it out. So this has been up for 2.5 minutes. So it doesn't look like it's up yet, so I'm going to pause the video. We'll wait. I'll give it 5 more minutes, and then we'll try it again. Alright, so let's go ahead and try it again. Okay. Now we have the prompt, so let's log in again. And this is pretty much the start of the lab. The only additional thing I wanted to show you is this license warning: system is operating demo licenses, please upload relevant license files. If you go and look at the actual licensing, you get 150 DLUs, and you still get the 3 node licenses, so you can have 1 publisher and 2 subscribers, as well as these 150 DLUs for your phones. So at this point you can begin building your lab. Alternatively, if you can upload another type of demo license file, and I can show you how to do that. I'll bring up another web browser here, and let's go cisco.com/go/license, and then you log in with your CCO. Alright, and then click on Get Demo, and we'll go down to Unified Communications Products, and then we'll want to use this Unified Communications Demo License version 6 through 8, and we'll go ahead and choose version 8, 3 nodes and 500 DLUs. And then for the MAC address, that was back on here. Let's move this down a little bit. So we got 491978F1D6EC, and click here since this is going to be loaded on a virtualized platform, and hit next. And you agree to the terms and click on Get License. And then we'll go ahead and click on Download. We'll save this to our desktop. And we'll go ahead and extract this file. So we now have the license file. So if we go back to our call manager, we'll just go to System, Licensing, Upload, or License File Upload, and we will select the file. Hit Upload, Continue. Then this should refresh with the license information, just like that. And now if we go back to the administration page, you no longer have that warning, and if you look at your license unit report, you now get 500 DLUs, which is way more than enough for home or lab use. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and thank you for watching.